Taxes are a scam.
Has anybody else started to reach their breaking point?
All right, it's time to stop paying federal taxes and you can do this shit fucking legally.
With millions of Americans struggling more than ever to afford the basic cost of living, and with the social division we have amongst our political scene, no matter what side you're on, there is a large amount of people that are deciding to start a tax revolt. Stop paying their federal taxes, their income taxes. They don't think that what we're paying for is worth what we're getting. And once again, it doesn't matter what side and who you agree with and all that. Because at the end of the day, there's something for everyone. A lot of people think our money shouldn't be going overseas. A lot of people think our money isn't going to the schools and the streets like it should be. A lot of people think we don't need to fund certain groups of people. A lot of people are saying, why are we doing this and doing that? Why are we giving, tax cuts to the rich people and making the poor people pay more? Why are we doing... So it doesn't matter what side you're on. Millions of Americans that are barely getting by, barely paying their bills, are saying, how come my tax dollars is going to help everybody else but me?
Taxes are a scam. No one talks enough about how when you grow up, you're not really taught about the tax system in America, how complicated it is, and how really weird it is that you have to learn through trial and error and experience how taxes work. So you get paid. The government knows how much money you make. They take out more money than they're supposed to, which is theft. Then you're taxed on things you buy, you're taxed on that income, you're taxed on your home, and then you have to file your taxes with the IRS, the agency who already knows how much money you make, for them to give the money that they took back to you because they took too much money from you. And if you don't file your taxes, it's somehow tax evasion and tax fraud. But they are the ones that took out too much money from you, even though they know how much money you make already. So if I don't file taxes, why is it evasion and not you stealing from me? Anybody ever thought about that? Like, I lived in the UK, I lived in Europe, and obviously I'm from America. And when I lived in France and the UK, I didn't have to think about taxes. Taxes were just taken out. Taxes are already included in prices in the stores. You're not taxed on your property every fucking year. So it's like, America's taking money from us. We have to prove to them that they know that they took too much money, even though they already know how much money we're making. And then we're taxed on every single thing that we do already, on top of being taxed on the money that they took from us. Makes you go, Makes you go,
This is going to piss you off. There is over 5,000 IRS employees that owe over $50 million in taxes collectively. On top of that, there's over 100,000 federal employees that owe over $1.5 billion in unpaid taxes. So they expect me and you to pay, but for them, they don't have to pay. There's only been a few of them that have actually been fired. On top of that, the billions of dollars that us hardworking Americans have been paying in taxes are going to fraudulent daycare systems and these field trips for these billionaires to go to these private islands and do strange things with kids.
Write a big fat check to the government today to pay their taxes. Over 100,000 federal workers are not paying their taxes. In 2021, the IRS found that almost 150,000 federal workers owe about $1.5 billion in unpaid taxes. Over 5,000 of them work at the IRS and owe $50 million in overdue taxes. Even though the IRS can fire its workers that are not paying their taxes, only 20 people have been terminated. That double standard is something.
Imagine you go to a restaurant and you order a martini with olives, that detail's important, an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert. And then when the menu comes, the waiter, instead of bringing you the bill, asks you how much you think you owe the restaurant. And you're like, gee, I don't remember. Can you bring the menu back to me? And they're like, sure, here's the menu. And so you do your best calculation. You're like, okay, this is what I owe you. And you pay them your $85.26. And they're like, actually, no, you got the martini with olives. The martini on the menu is the basic martini without olives. You owe us an additional $2.35. And because you didn't pay us the initial $2.35 in your first go, you now owe an extra 5% penalty on top of your total bill for not giving us the right amount the first time. And you're like, well, couldn't this have all been avoided by you just telling me how much you owed me? And they're like, that's not how this works. And you're like, okay, well, I wish it worked differently and I don't want to pay the extra late fee. And they're like, well, then we can arrest you. That is our U.S. tax system.
Paying taxes in America. Now, with that being said, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, how old you are. You can be 4, 40, fucking 80 years old. It doesn't matter if you're working at McDonald's, if you're a doctor, if you get paid under the table. It doesn't even matter if you're sadly homeless. If you are living in America, if you are purchasing food, purchasing water, basically just fucking existing, you are paying taxes. Now, with that being said, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily have a big issue with paying taxes to the government, right? I wouldn't have a necessarily big issue with sending half my check off to the government for them to do fuck knows what with it. If the fuck knows what they're doing with my tax dollars is the betterment of the people. Free healthcare, free education, you know, getting the homeless off the street and actually giving them shelter and some food to fucking eat. You know, helping veterans, helping just the general population that are in tough times and helping them out. And also just helping people get good jobs and actually making the jobs good jobs, you know, just helping the society that we currently live in. That's the point I'm getting at, right? Instead of just sending it off to make bombs, you know, tax cuts for the fucking rich, you know, just stupid shit, right? Wars, 1 trillion in this country, 1 trillion in that country, 1 trillion to, you know, fuck knows what, right? Instead of doing that, if I knew my tax dollars were strictly going to help the people around me and, you know, give me free healthcare, give the people around me free healthcare, free education, you know, help just in general build more roads, build housing for the people that need it, you know, just help people. If I knew it was going to that, I wouldn't mind paying my taxes. I wouldn't mind paying half my fucking check every single time I get paid or paying my annual income tax. I wouldn't mind doing that if I knew it went to good shit instead of bombing some random fucking kid in Gaza. See, that's the stupid shit that pisses me off. I know it's going to that. Like 10% of your money is probably going to building roads, into the hospitals and the fucking education that you still have to pay for because it's going to private ownership that, you know, they get your tax dollars and they're like, okay, build the fucking college, build the hospital, and they still make you pay for it. You're double paying for it, right? That makes no fucking sense, right? Okay? And you know what? Even if you want to send money off to a different country, right? I would be fine with it if I knew you were helping, like, poorer countries out there, like, somewhere in, like, Africa or, you know, in the Middle East, helping poorer countries out that need it. Like, they need water. They need food. If you were helping them out, I wouldn't mind paying it. I wouldn't mind paying more because you're helping people. You're fucking helping people survive. You're helping people get the fuck out of their shitty situation. Instead of just giving tax cuts. Instead of giving more money to the rich. Instead of just marketing and fucking robbing us more. I wouldn't mind paying more in my taxes or paying the same amount of tax I have right now if I knew it strictly, and only strictly, went to just helping people. Not the $1 trillion military, not controlling other countries, not assassinating people, not hurting or putting other people down and keeping people in poverty or keeping the homeless on the street. If I knew it went to helping people and pretty much only helping people, I wouldn't mind. I would not fucking mind.
Not going deep on the political side as far as where your money goes, just the amount that you're taxed is crazy. You're taxed on earning, then you're taxed on spending, then you're taxed on what you own, and then you have to pay a yearly tax after that. And then you still have these little itsy bitsy fees here and there that all add up, and they all go to the government anyway. It feels like the more successful you are, the more it's kind of like child support. You know, even though raising a kid costs the same nationally as far as the country, the more you make, the more you pay. It's kind of like taxes. Even though the cost of living is the same, the more you make, the more you got to give. It is like, why work harder if you have to spend more money? Yes, you get to keep more of it, but still, a lot of people are saying, if I end up making $200K a year and I got to give 40% of my money away, why even try to make $200K a year when I could just make $100K a year and only give away 22% or 25%, whatever the bracket is? You understand the concept. So if I can work enough to survive, I'm not going to work any harder than that. And that's what Americans are saying.
Has anybody else started to reach their breaking point or a boiling point? So this is starting to look like a country that I am no longer proud to have served. I've been working my entire adult life, and I have paid half or more than half back to the government in some way, shape, or form in taxes for the past 30 years. And if you don't believe me, look up everything that you have that is taxed. State income tax, federal income tax, property taxes, payroll taxes, Medicare taxes, Medicaid taxes, sales taxes. Everything is taxed. Everything. And we have a political apparatus where half of them say that if you don't keep us in power, we will steal from you so that we can import people that will. So shut up and go back to work. And another side of the aisle that is either in on it or is totally complete chicken shit and won't do anything about it and won't even try to actually represent the people that vote for them. Is anybody else getting to a point where we feel like we cannot vote our way out of this? Where does that leave us? because nothing is going to happen about the fraud. Nothing. All of the fraud that Elon Musk and Doge exposed, the Republican Congress put it on the back burner and refused to fucking vote on it. Turned around to the American voter that put them in power and extended one of these. It doesn't matter what we do. This situation is completely freaking unsustainable. Totally and completely unsustainable. It's a waste of time to vote, and it's a waste of energy to pay taxes so that we can give it to people that are going to steal from us. And then we can send it to other countries that hate us. And we can send it to people in the European Union that look down their nose at the American worker and say, good little bitch, go back to work. It's putting us in a helpless situation, and I don't think the people in Washington living in that bubble realize the anger that is fuming outside of the borders of that city. And I am not interested in watching another fucking theatrical congressional hearing where a couple of ballsy Republicans bitch out a fucking corrupt leftist and then nothing happens. Accountability and a fucking tax strike is what needs to happen.
That tax that they're contemplating in California, just deciding randomly to tax people because they're successful, that's un-American. All of this is un-American. What you're talking about is some random idea that some individual in government should decide what an individual makes in America. That is un-American.
Un-American? The government decided to tax us in the first place. Before I was born, the government decided to tax me and you watching this video. They decided on corporate taxes. They decided on payroll taxes. They decided on capital gains taxes. They decided to write the rule book, hundreds of pages, to alleviate tax burden from the rich. The ordinary folks, our tax code is on a cocktail napkin. Standard deduction, child tax credits, and maybe capital gains relief from our house if we sell it under a certain amount. We don't benefit from it. The government, Kevin, we just need the tax system to be updated and changed so that it's more fair. We have AI coming down the pipeline, robotics coming down the pipeline, the productivity, the GDP per capita is going to be sky high, which is a good thing. We should all be celebrating as Americans, but it needs to be a little more fair. I'm not saying even, I'm not saying socialism, I'm saying capitalism with some guardrails. We need to rethink it. The world is changing.
America is one of the few countries, I think there's only like 2 or 3 countries that charge their citizens income tax or tax in general, even when they live abroad. America's one of the only 2 or 3 countries that do that. So even if you move, like me, I'm moving to Vietnam on July 7th. I bought my plane ticket, so that is the final date. July 7th, I'll be flying out. I'm still going to have to pay my taxes no matter what. As long as I want to remain a U.S. citizen, I'm going to have to keep paying taxes. So basically, it gets to a point where you're taxed on what you earn, what you buy, what you already own, and the little itsy bitsy fees. And then that money that you're giving, the hundreds of millions and billions and trillions of dollars, because the U.S. government gets over $5 trillion a year from earnings, from income tax, it's going to stuff that none of us agree with. And then if you try to escape it, they can garnish your wages, they can take your house, your car, just make it hard for you to travel. They can make it harder for you to leave and start businesses and have all these benefits. And then when you leave, you still got to pay those taxes, so you can't escape it.
Okay, this is a pretty big deal. We know what just happened in Venezuela, which is freaking shocking. But at the same time, what was leading up to that is that millions of people were saying they're not paying their taxes this year in the US because they think their money is going to places that it shouldn't be. They think there's some corruption going on. I don't know why they would think that. But listen to this. According to Grok, which I know it's Twitter's AI, but it says, if everyone stops paying their taxes, and actually a lot less than that, the IRS has zero chance of keeping up with it and would go into a total meltdown. Meanwhile, the US government would have to concede defeat and negotiate with the power of the people for tax exemption indefinitely. So I don't know. I've been saying for a while, like, if we really don't like the way things are going, there's one way that we can do that's, of course, completely peaceful. The only options out of this are if you do the other side, they have plans for unruly outbreaks. But when it's totally peaceful, that's when their hands are tied, because there's only so much you can do to a peaceful population that's saying, no, I don't like this. So if this actually happens, the power rolls, people will remember who has the true power. It's us. It's not the little fiddlers at the top who are messing around and, it's us, man. It's the ants from the movie Bug's Life. What are we going to do? We can't let one ant stand up to us because then they all might stand up to us. We are the ants, and I think we're standing up. I can feel it, actually. Let me know what your tax plan is. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of people, it's going viral on Twitter, and I'm seeing on Instagram, people are saying, that's it. I don't know if I'm filing this year or whatever. You guys, your tax system there works differently than here, but let me know. Should this be global? Should every country stop just for a second paying them? I wonder what would happen in that case. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
Go to your HR department and tell them to stop withholding federal fucking taxes. There is no reason we should be giving the IRS, the Israeli Revenue Service, our fucking money at 0% every month. Take that money, put it into a high interest savings. It's going to be at 3 or 5%. And then if you choose to, pay that shit at the end of the year. Let's say the end of the year comes and you don't want to pay that shit. Well, you file what you owe and then you don't send a fucking payment. You will take a penalty of about 1% a month, I believe it is. Anybody can correct me if you want to. That's about 12% a year. And then maybe after years and years and years and years, they might send you a notification saying, okay, we need to settle this shit up or we're going to start garnishment proceedings. And if tens of millions of people fucking did this, they don't have the capacity to go after everybody. So they're going to go after the big dogs. Woof. Fuck these motherfuckers, bro. Why are we giving them our money, especially right now? And Donald Trump is just going to settle a lawsuit that he sued the fucking United States for $10 billion for releasing his tax records that every fucking president before him has ever done, and it didn't cause him any fucking harm, and he's going to settle it for $10 billion? Yeah, he's stealing our money. He's stealing our money. I mean, fuck, bro. Fuck these motherfuckers. Stop paying federal taxes.
You guys realize if this income tax passes, 5% on people under 125,000, okay? 10% sales tax and 25% federal income tax, that your tax rate is going to be 40 goddamn percent. Do you realize that? Democrats, do you realize that your absolute bare minimum tax rate is going to be 40 fucking percent? Keep voting blue, you ignorant sons of bitches.
Hey TikTok, my name is Jacob Weezar. It's a pretty funny last name, I understand that. But the sole purpose of this video today is to let you know that I am joining many Americans in not paying federal income tax for 2026 and beyond. I am disgusted, and I can't even put into words what I feel in my heart about everything that has been happening these last couple of years. Everything that happens overseas, all the people who are killed, kidnapped, and everything else. And it all happens with my tax dollars and everybody else's tax dollars who work as well. I don't agree, and I'm making a stand. Now, people are going to say, what will this do? Well, what's the other alternative? It's silence. And I don't want to be silent. And nobody else wants to be silent either. How do I know? Because I see people on social media every single day posting about it, using their voice. But it's time to not just talk about it, but it's time to actually act. We fuel all of these horrible acts that our government does with our money that we work hard for. Let's stop that. Let's stop funding everything. Let's stop fueling whatever type of objective that they're trying to go and do. I'm not going to be paying anymore. Neither should y'all. We need to make a stand against all the corrupt people that are controlling America. Me and you, we are not terrorists. We are true Americans. And we need to step up right now, because we know what is wrong and we know what is right, and we see what's happening already. Everything is being uncovered. Now, what should you do with that extra money? Let's not be stupid, because let's be honest, they will probably come for us. Maybe it might not be in a year, but who knows? Something might happen. Arm yourselves. Make sure you have extra food, a whole bunch of ammo, and stay safe.
If you want a reason to get angry tonight, just look at this fucking headline. Amazon paid $7.8 billion less in taxes this year, even though their profits jumped by 45%. How does that fucking work? You want to know how it works? The big beautiful bill. The big beautiful bill is giving Amazon a ton of tax breaks because they're investing in infrastructure in America. You want to know what the infrastructure is? AI data centers. The same ones that are driving up your electricity costs. The same ones that are ruining your water sources. The average silver plan for health insurance jumped by 21% in the United States this past year. It's $752 a month for a single 40-year-old adult. Do you want to know how many Americans $7.8 billion would have bought health insurance for? Over 10,350,000.
Hey, what's up, America? Most Americans are in such an affordability crisis that we're desperate for our tax returns so we can pay our bills. So as of right now, 55% of Americans are struggling to pay their bills, and 60% of Americans are struggling to afford food for them and their family. Yes, just struggling to afford food to eat. But now 73% of Americans are saying that they need their tax refund in order to pay off past due bills. In other words, if they don't get their tax refund, they will default on their credit cards, be kicked out of their house, or lose their cars, or even have their power shut off. Only 14% of Americans say they're planning to spend their tax refund on anything fun. It's getting so bad out there that 38% of Americans have been forced to move because of high cost. And half of Gen Z has been forced to relocate because they can't afford where they live anymore. Most Americans have given up on living in their ideal location, with 64% of Americans believing that they'll never be able to afford where they want to live ever in their life. And so overall, tax refunds have become nothing but survival money, which is sad as fuck. Now, in another poll, only 19% of boomers are saying that they're struggling. 19% of boomers are struggling, while upwards of 70% of the rest of America are fucked financially. Just think about that. And half of Americans are saying that affordable states are so out of reach that it's unaffordable now. States like Indiana. So face it, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a full-blown affordability crisis here in America. And more than likely, this is why Republicans will be losing the midterm elections to Democrats. Even though that's even more fucked up because Democrats have absolutely no solutions on the table for this. It's just a perception that they might do better. Spoiler alert, they won't. But Donald Trump and his administration say affordability crisis is nothing but a hoax. So you have two political parties that hate your fucking guts. So why do you fuckers keep voting for these douchebags? Vote for an independent.
If you made it this far, please go ahead and subscribe, like, and let me know in the comments, what do you think? Are you going to continue to pay your taxes? I mean, I'm leaving this year. So, I'm going to pay my tax because I don't want nothing to get in the way of me heading out and trying to, start a new life and just start a better quality of life. I don't want nothing getting in the way. But you might have a different life goal, a different path, and your choice might be different. So you let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, and thank you for watching this video. And remember, no matter what happens, as long as you're alive, life goes on.